Appreciate you for being here, man. I really do. So please tell the audience a little bit just about your background, all some of the incredible things you've accomplished so far.
Yeah, man. So I'll keep it short and sweet, but I am born and raised in Petersburg, Virginia. I was a high school athlete, track and field, Hall of Fame. Earned a scholarship to Hampton University. You guys see I'm rocking my Hampton U alum, the real HU. I don't want to argue about it. No ifs, ands, and buts. I majored in sport management at Hampton. Ran track and field for 4 years there. Graduated in 2008, coming into the Great Recession, which was really tough. Sports is already a very difficult field to land a job. And in tandem with the recession, it was really hard for me to find a job at that time. So I went to grad school at Virginia State to kind of add to my resume, studied marketing there. While I was in grad school, I worked at a sports agency. At the time, it was Corporate Athletic Management. It's now known as Paramount Sports and Entertainment, which is in Norfolk, Virginia, where I worked with a ton of NFL athletes working on their community initiatives and doing some recruiting with some of the NFL side and also expanding into the NBA side while I was there. So I worked with like Cam Chancellor, I worked with D'Angelo Hall, I worked with a bunch of other good mid-tier athletes that were in the NFL at the time. Long story short, I was chasing a kid in the NBA, ended up not getting drafted. And that for me was the turning point where I realized that I didn't have the funds or the moral compass to continue in that business. So I transitioned and ended up landing a job at Nike, where I worked there for about 4 years as a brand manager, doing activations, sport moments, things like Super Bowl, All-Star Weekend, World Basketball Festival, where I got to really plan these big events and collaborate with athletes and entertainers that would come to the events. And then the main focus for me was consumer engagement. So understanding how we can get the consumers to engage in these activations and share it on their social media handles. So we wanted to make these experiences go viral and create a social element to our experiences. And I was in charge of thinking through how we could do that. And then also getting people to engage in our apparel lines in the stores in certain locations. So that was my experience at Nike. I did that for 4 years, but again, I started to feel stifled creatively. I personally am an entrepreneur at heart. I always have been. And on year 4 at Nike, I wasn't getting the jobs that I really wanted. You know, I was getting beat out by white girls from Stanford or somebody's son or cousin that whatever, maybe didn't have the same resume, but obviously had the connections. And I was just kept getting beat out for the job that I wanted within the company. So I decided to take a leap of faith, bet on myself. And I started my own company in 2014 called the Shine Hard Family. It's a community organization with a mission to close the racial wealth gap. And what we do is feature and recognize the nation's top Black millennial leaders to transfer professional knowledge and also financial literacy knowledge to create generational wealth for Black millennials and Gen Zers. So I've been doing that for almost 6 years now, and our organization has grown here in DC. And through that work, I also have been hired by Google to be a digital coach in DC, where our mission is to level the playing field for Black and brown small business owners, helping them grow their businesses online and learn digital skills. So right now, I'm currently the founder of the Shine Hard Foundation, and I'm also a digital coach for Google. So those are the two things I do with most of my time. And I also do some micro-influencing on my social media and digital coaching and marketing consulting on the side to bring in extra streams of revenue. So that's the long story less long is I'm pro-Black. I'm all about entrepreneurship, And I believe technology is the way that we can close the racial wealth gap. So I'm happy to be here. I'm an HBCU alum. Kadeem, I hope that answers your first question.
No, it really did. Thank you so much for that. And I think you actually touched on something really important that I think a lot of people find difficult. You pivoted. So you started with this, with this goal to work in sports. You were pretty successful. Like, you started in Virginia as a student, and then you moved on to Nike, but you realized you weren't getting the roles that you wanted. So a lot of us, I think, bump into that wall where it's hard for us to break through or get into the industry. So how did you pivot? What was that moment like for you? Did you feel defeated? How did you move past your dream of working specifically in sports and tell yourself, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to focus on highlighting others. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, man. So it wasn't an easy transition. It was the culmination of 2 years of being really unhappy at Nike, where I called it the golden handcuffs, because to everyone outside of my immediate circle, it looked like I had the dream job. Yeah. Everyone aspires to work at Nike or work at the big companies, right? And I had that job. And so people thought, why would you not love that? You're set for life. You're good. But internally, I wasn't fulfilled. I have a lot of creativity. I had a lot of passion to impact people who look like me, people who come from where I come from. And if I wasn't able to have a position that allowed me to serve my purpose and to reach people in a way that was fulfilling for me, it didn't matter how much money I was making or what company I worked for. I wasn't going to be happy and fulfilled. So, and I wasn't going to be my true self. I think God has a purpose for all of us. And if we're not walking in that path, it doesn't matter how cool your title is, you're not going to be your best self. So that realization hit me around 2013. And I started to apply for jobs that I thought would maybe, scratch that itch that I was having, but they didn't see me. So, and I was at a point, man, where two things happened. One, I was so unhappy, like during my lunch breaks, I was sleeping in my car. Like I had to get out of Nike, out of the office, because I was so frustrated. And that was one red flag. And the second thing was there was a girl in DC who had the job that I had been applying for. And I didn't get the job, she got the job. But I would volunteer and help her out. And she would be calling me frequently, asking me for help with her job. And I was like, hey, can you connect? She was like, can you connect me with such and such? Do you have any ideas on how I could do this? Put this event together. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So you're telling me this girl got the job, but she need me for all the answers. I'm like, nah. That was like the last straw for me. So then I saved up like $10,000 and I just took a leap of faith. I'm like, you know what? I'm out. If you're cool, I'm out. And that was it, bro. And I left. And I didn't really have a plan. I just had a small little business that I had started. I was making a few coins, and I just trusted myself. I bet on myself that I would make this work. And I was like, I'm not going back. So I'm going to figure this thing out.
So literally from it being a dream, you are now, in many people's opinions, you're living the dream now. You're an entrepreneur. You're running things for yourself, and you have Google backing you. You're a digital coach. That's huge. But I feel like we would be remiss to not talk about how difficult it is to start a business and what it really looks like. Putting something like the organization that you developed, building that up from the ground up. So can you just kind of talk about what that looked like in the early days, from developing the business plan to getting investors to even getting millennials to be interested enough to want you to highlight them? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, well, you're taking me back. I haven't thought about those early years in quite some time.
Let's go back.
But I would say, I had that cash saved up, and it was bootstrap. It wasn't a business where I'm like, okay, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to invest in all these products. It's a service-based business. And to be frank, I didn't know a lot about entrepreneurship when I started it. I was creating content because I had my experience. And one thing I will say is the benefit of working for a company is that we can learn how business works. We can learn the skills, we can learn the systems, we can learn the team, the roles. There's a lot that can be learned from working for other people. And I was more or less pulling from my experiences at the sports agency, pulling from my experiences with Nike, some of my education from Hampton and Virginia State. And I was just, and really things that just came natural to me, like creating content and highlighting and telling stories. I went on YouTube, learned how to build a website, taught myself, built the website. I knew I had a ton of connections in my network and Black people that were doing amazing things. So I was leveraging YouTube to publish content, and I was just finding people that I thought were dope that I could come on and tell their stories. And meanwhile, that wasn't making any money. That was just getting people to come to my website, and I was generating traffic from that. But in order for me to actually make money, I had to freelance. So I had to leverage my skills as a website developer now and a content creator, a marketing strategist or consultant. So I'm coming from Nike. People think, okay, he's the Nike brand manager. He must know things about marketing. So then I was kind of working with small businesses and companies, selling my skills to continue to have pay the bills. So it wasn't all glamour. It was me doing some things on the side to bring in money when I could, designing logos, designing websites. And I did that for 2 or 3 years until Shineheart got to a point where I now could host events. And now we were a nonprofit that we could raise money and get donations and get some major sponsors to come on and help us really be more sustainable throughout the next 3 or 4 years that would follow. So to answer your question, creating a business plan is very important. Understanding what you're setting out to do and who you're setting out to serve is extremely important. Having some cash reserves set up is very important. I would never recommend anyone just leave their job to start a business that's not making any money. I think I did it as more of a radical entrepreneurial seizure, as they call it. But I'm a very unique case. I wouldn't recommend that to be a best practice, but taking your time. I think everyone should have a side hustle. You can work a 9 to 5. There's nothing wrong with having a job. Having a good job is a great thing to have. It's stability, it's insurance. But I think I know for a fact, you're not going to become rich or wealthy working a 9 to 5. The people who become wealthy are the owners, or the high level, the C-suite people. And even them, they're investing in the stock market. They're investing in real estate. They're investing in bonds. They're investing in other businesses. So until you get to a point where you are doing that yourself as well, we're always going to be spinning our wheel, working for necessity and not for joy. So entrepreneurship is just a tool for you to generate wealth, because that's the whole name of the game in this capitalistic society, is to own land, get labor to help you scale your businesses and your idea, and then you invest and pass that down to your family and keep it going. That's how this game works. So that's how entrepreneurship is, and that's what I've learned about it from being in it for 6 and 7 years now.
So, something that I've learned from you, and I remember you spoke to my MBA class when I was at Howard. You talked a lot about the importance of building a very strong personal brand, and then also realizing how to add value in relationships. And that's something, I don't think I told you, but that's something that I carried with me from the moment you said it. So can you just talk a little bit about that? That was huge for me. That was like a mind-blowing moment.
I can see that you've been applying some of those strategies that we talked about, because your network has grown, and I see how you're moving strategically to add value to others, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, your personal brand, honestly, my personal brand is probably the #1 value that has actually helped me get to where I am. I don't think that I'm extraordinarily talented. I'm not LeBron James. I'm not some superstar brainiac person. I'm literally just a person who knows how to add value to others. I know how to present myself online. I show up and I treat people well. And I'm very creative in how I try to help people. So if I work with my unique place in the Black community is that I was telling stories of all these amazing people. So my ability to sit down with someone who other people look up to, who's influential, and talk to them, ask them questions about their challenges, their adversities, their dreams, and they'll confide in me and tell me everything. I have that information. That content is valuable. And so I talk to 10, 20, 30 different people. I now can see something that other people just can't see. I can see some inner workings within people's dreams and goals. And so I started to connect people according to their goals, according to their challenges. And I became a kind of a matchmaker of sorts. And people really appreciated that. I became very valuable to our community because I was a person who could see challenges and solutions that other people just couldn't see. And that was just by way of me doing the work I was doing at Scheinhardt, just doing interviews and having conversations. So I took the value of one, telling stories, but then I took it to the next level of saying, like, now I have information that I can use to add value behind the scenes. So I was connecting people via emails, and then we even created a system in Scheinhardt that was connecting people pretty much automatically. We kind of automated our connections on the back end, which was just, it just really accelerated the growth of our company and the value of our company, and the loyalty of those that were a part of it just really, really grew. So I would say that's kind of how it worked for me, but to give a more general answer of how it can apply to anyone is to think creatively around what you can do for others before you thinking about what others can do for you. So yeah, you have a goal to get a job at XY company. You want to work at Nike. You want to work for the Washington Wizards. You want to work for the NFL. I mean, everybody does, right? Everyone in sports wants to work for these big companies. But what you can do is, one, get experience. So you start to volunteer. You start to intern. You take whatever money you have to travel to an event so you can say that you were there. And what I did when I was in the sports industry that I felt like was really, really unique is that I would pay my own way to go to certain events, and I would take pictures while I was there. I'd have someone take a picture of me. And then to me, I would like tell a story about how I'm included in this event somehow. Like, I not lie or embellish, but just really say like, hey, I traveled here, I contributed, and while I'm there, I'm meeting everybody that I possibly can. All the Nike heads that were there, I'm going up to them, getting their email, getting their business cards. Every conference, sports conference that there was, I'm doing the same thing. I set a goal. If you go to a sports conference, right? How many of you have been to a sports conference? Type in the chat, I have or I haven't. If you have, type I've been to a sports conference. The chat has 7, 8. Okay, I want to see like 20 in the next 10 seconds if you have. So I have not. You got to go to a sports conference. Those are important. But when you go, make sure you set a goal for yourself. I'm going to get 10 business cards. Make sure you look at who's going to be at the conference. I'm going to get these 5 people's business cards for sure, and I'm going to get 10 overall. So when you leave that conference, and maybe meet them while you're there, of course, but when you leave that conference, you need to know, what's the ROI on the $100 I paid for this conference? I got 10 new connections at these companies, right? So that way you have an actual tangible return on your investment in these business cards. Then what you have to do is follow up. After the conference, everyone's going to be rushing them with emails, and you may not be any different. You still want to follow up with them. They may not respond, or they might respond really short. And then you follow up again. And the next time you follow up, start thinking creatively about how you can add value to what they're doing. What did they say at the conference? What did they initiate that maybe was a problem at their organization? What ideas do you have right now that could help with them? Offer some ideas, offer some ability to help. Like, you really got to pound the pavement and know the people, make sure the people know you, and see how you can fit in. And it might not happen overnight. It's going to take time. But if you plug in with multiple people at the same company, multiple people at different companies over a year, over 2 years, you're going to learn a lot about the industry. So it's going to be valuable for you, even if you don't get a job. But secondly, people are going to start to know you. They're going to start seeing you at certain events over and over again. They're going to start seeing you at conferences over and over again. And then you become a part of the industry. And when you become a part of the industry, now you're very, very easy to hire. You're very easy to sell to someone in a team, because hiring isn't done in a vacuum. Hiring is by a team. It's like 3, 4, 5 people that decide whether you're the person they want to hire. So if I like you, I'm the hiring person. I still got to pitch you to the other people on the team, the manager of your department, X, Y, Z. So they have to say, oh, okay, this is a good person. So what you do by being a part of the industry and adding value and ideas before you get hired, give that hiring manager a very, very good case to pitch to the team so you can get hired. So that's a lot of information. Hope you pulled some ideas from that around my story, around just some general tactics and strategies that you can use. But become a part of the industry. And that's how you do that. And that's how you become very, very hireable. And you can pretty much write your own ticket once you get your foot in the door.
Oof, nothing but gems. Oh my God. All right. I feel like I have so many questions, but I really want to open it up to the students, just our audience. So guys, please jump into the chat and go ahead and ask Johnny any questions you guys have. And while I wait for those questions to pop up, because I see you guys very active, I love to see this. If the audience was to walk away with any like key insights from everything you said, what are just a few like final gems you would want to leave them with?
I'm sitting here reading the chat right now, trying to vibe out with you guys. Julia, what's poppin'? Hampton U alum. Julia said, I've been watching you since the beginning, JB. You come a long way. I certainly have. Let's see. Oh, my bro Jalen here, Jalen Mitchell, one of my interns. He's a Howard student. My guy, he's a superstar in the making. Leslie has a long question that I want to read. Oh, you're from Petersburg. That's dope, Les. Hit me up, drop me a line. Let's talk more. I can't read your whole message right now, but I definitely will check it out. Tonrea Moss. Okay. You've been to a sports conference. Love it. I love the engagement, guys. I appreciate you guys asking questions. Joshua Brown says, do you still recommend old-fashioned physical business cards or the new virtual technology methods available? I think you should have virtual cards and physical cards. It doesn't hurt to have a card in hand when you meet someone who might be a baby boomer at a certain company who doesn't have the digital methods. You can put it right in their hand. It is cool to have like the QR code where someone can just scan and they can get your business card, but someone may not want to do that. Like millennials, Gen Zers, we are cool with that, but some of the old head, gray hair guys may not be down with that. So that's my advice on that. Carmen, how would you reckon transitioning back into sports industry if you've been out for a few years? Well, reach out to your old contacts. Revise your resume. I think your resume needs to reflect what you've been doing, the value that you've been adding. And the most important thing that I can say in terms of any job for all of you is to determine what type of work are you setting out to do in your purpose. Like, don't put the jobs aside for a second and just think about like, what is your mission in life? Like, who are you trying to really impact in your work today? And you may not know your whole legacy at 21, 22, but like, who you want to help right now? Like for me, my mission is to close the racial wealth gap. I want to help Black and brown people increase their net worth and start profitable businesses and occupy seats of power at companies. So I already know exactly who I want to help. And so when I work with a company, whether it be Google, whether it be Capital One, I already know. I'm like, okay, so what programs do you have that allow me to serve my mission and do the work that I want to do? right? And I'm at a place now where I can kind of write my own ticket, and you may not be. Sometimes you got to take jobs that you don't necessarily love to get to where you want to go. But in your mind, you need to know, where are you trying to go? Like, who am I trying to serve? What work do I really want to do? And then you start mapping out the path to getting there. So to answer your question, Carmen, is like, you may leave the sports industry to better serve your community and to honestly build your brand in that space. So when I go to your LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, she's been serving Black women, with different companies. So now I would love to bring her back into sports to serve Black women to do the work at our company. You feel me? So do what you have to do to build your brand and tell your story, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're doing important work in a specific lane, everyone's going to want you to come do that work at their company.
Incredible.
Oh, you're from Chesterfield.
All right. I think we have time for like 2 more questions. All right. Let's see. Do you still? Okay. Can you explain how to balance that concept for somebody who is starting out in the corporate world but wants to transition to entrepreneurial work?
Sure. Well, one, if you don't come from a wealthy family must come from you. Number 2, you work your 9 to 5, but then you gotta, work 5 to 9 on yourself. So you work full-time on your living and part-time on your fortune, right? So after work, you need to figure out, what am I gonna do to create additional streams of income? Some people might take a portion of their 9 to 5 income and invest it in the stock market and say, okay, I'm gonna become a day trader, or I'm gonna become an investor into the market and just let my stocks work for me residually. Some people want to be more active and say, well, I'm going to be a freelancer. So the skills that I have at my 9 to 5, where I'm doing digital marketing or doing email campaigns for this company, I'm now going to go on Fiverr or Upwork, and I'm going to let 2 businesses hire me to draft their email campaigns when I get off of work. So I can make an extra $500 a week just doing the same work I'm doing at work when I'm off work. So now I'm making an extra $2,000 a month that I now can pay off my student loans. I now can invest in maybe real estate. Maybe, I don't know what you guys have planned, but there's plenty of things you can invest in to start generating wealth and getting out of debt. For you guys, it's probably getting out of debt. I'm very proud to say that I just paid off my student loans. I'm totally debt free.
Love to see it.
Yeah, I paid off $40,000 in 7 months. And that was just a radical kind of endeavor that I had, because I had $53,000 coming into this whole thing. And then I paid off 2 years of like minimum payments, and then I just went crazy this year. But getting out of debt is a major step to creating wealth. And honestly, it's just giving you more freedom and less stress in your job search, because when you have debt on your shoulders, you feel very stressed about, I gotta get a job, I gotta take jobs I don't love, I gotta do things I don't want to do because I have so much weight on my shoulder. But when you can get out of debt, you can think clearly, you can work out of joy and not out of necessity. But balancing your time, leveraging your time when you're young, Jalen, is one of your greatest assets. So start freelancing, get involved, figure out new ways to make money. You can hit me up if you want more questions about how to do that.
Johnny, thank you so much for all of the insight you dropped. Like, that was incredible. I mean, like, not that I didn't know, because like I literally sat and listened to you say all of this before. Like, well, some of this is new, but I've heard all of this incredible insight come from you. And again, I've practiced it and it works. So thank you so much for coming and blessing the summit with all of that insight and knowledge. Like, I can't thank you enough.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm happy to be here. I'm always very, very passionate about pouring into the HBCU family. You all are next up. There's so many things happening in 2020 that should be an awakening, that we are the leaders of right now. This is our moment. You are the ancestors of the next generation. So we have to make our descendants very, very proud. And you have control. Like, don't ever think that the way things are the way things that will always be. Quite frankly, things can change year to year. And we see with this president that we have that nothing is concrete. Things can get shifted. People can come in and change the whole landscape of a society, of a country. So you have that same power to change it and to mold this country into what you want it to be, to mold your community into what you want it to be. So I challenge you to leave your mark, to do something great. It's your responsibility. Your parents are believing in you, your grandparents, our great-great-grandparents that were living during Reconstruction era and that were buying their own freedom back so that we could do the things that we're doing right now. I mean, it's great. It's so much bigger than you and I, right? We have to realize that our history and our heritage is depending on us to continue to carry the baton forward. So I urge you to don't take this moment lightly. Don't waste your time. Get to work. If you want to find me online, I'm one Johnny Bailey on Instagram, Johnny Bailey on LinkedIn, and my website is johnnybailey.com. I'll drop it in the chat. I appreciate you guys having me. Stay blessed, stay inspired, and remember, we are the leaders of right now.